Biden was in Nevada on Sunday with a campaign speech. And while he was there, he went through a list of reasons that we all know about, people listening to this podcast know about, I know about, you know about, people who are still logical, reasonable, and haven't been polluted and corrupted by Christian fascism in this country. We know this. But Biden went through that list of reasons why a second Trump presidency would be a nightmare for the country. That was his word, by the way, nightmare. He urged Nevada Democrats to vote for him in the state's presidential primary, which comes up this week, and then to vote for Democratic candidates in Nevada when the general election comes up in November. He started this campaign with a fundraiser where he focused on Trump's history of filthy statements, traitorous statements, treasonous statements, I should say, and just the vile shit that Donald Trump has pumped into our social consciousness in this country. For example, Trump's description that was picked up immediately by his little sycophants that the January 6th rioters who had been convicted and sentenced were hostages. The Orange Bastard's musings about a former top military officer deserving execution, General Mark Milley. It's staggering, isn't it? His Trump's way of labeling soldiers who died in America's wars as Trump's words were suckers and losers. And then Trump's comment about being a dictator for just a day. And, of course, his vow to his supporters, I am your retribution. For what? Retribution for what? For Trump's mental sickness. That's for what? Anyway, after he gave that speech at the fundraiser, it was off to a community center where he told a crowd of several hundred that, quote, you're the reason we'll make Donald Trump a loser again, end quote. Trump is the loser, dear God, isn't he? Anyway, Biden pointed out during his fundraiser and his speeches in Nevada over the weekend something also that you and I are now acutely aware of, and that is the stakes are huge. They were huge when he took on Trump in 2020. Biden said, quote, what made America, America, I thought at the time, was at risk, end quote, referring to the 2020 campaign. And, of course, anyone will tell you, as you've told yourself, that those risks are even larger now because of what Trump has indicated he will do and the way his fascist army has worked its way into just damn near every institution in this country. It's really scary to me. How about to you, huh? Anyway, he told donors in Henderson, Nevada, that if they came to Washington, he'd be happy to show them the White House dining room table where the orange vomit sat for hours in front of the TV as the people willing to destroy the country for Trump acted out their sickness on television. Biden pointed out the obvious. He said, quote, we have to keep the White House. We must keep the Senate. We must win back the House. And if we accomplish that, we can say we saved American democracy. You know, that is not over-the-top rhetoric. That is the truth. At this point, we should know this. And even when Biden wins this November, there will be blood. We know this. We know this. It's just a matter of I think what's going to be a big determining factor in how violent the situation gets in this country is the degree to which Biden wins. If he wins by 2 or 3 percentage points, that's one thing. If he wins by 15 or 20, that's something else again. And here again, my opinion is Trump shouldn't even be in the race. I mean, Trump is a goddamn traitor. He's a rapist. He's a liar. You know all the things he is. And this week, I think it's on Thursday, the U.S. Supreme Court is to begin hearing oral arguments about why the son of a bitch should be denied a place on the ballot in Colorado, and by extension, Maine, and possibly in just about every state in the country. If the Supreme Court rules in Trump's favor, then we know, I don't give a shit about the rhetoric that will come out on both sides. I really don't care. If this Supreme Court allows Trump to continue to run for the presidency after what he has done, what he has shown explicitly he is willing to do and will do, then democracy is over. We don't have to wait till November. Democracy is over. Now, they will hear arguments. Supreme Court will this Thursday. It'll begin the hearings. But when will a ruling come? No telling. The Supreme Court goes into recess, excuse me, in, I think, June, or is it the end of June? And then they don't come back until the first Monday in October, which will be about 5 weeks before the election. So there's an awful lot riding on this particular Supreme Court. God help us if they rule the wrong way, or Goddess help us, or somebody. Biden was also blunt when he, not only when he talked up his record, which I don't understand why 37% of Americans think Biden is doing a good job economically, and some ridiculous figure like 58% say no, he isn't. What the hell? How does this kind of a disconnect occur? It's just beyond me. Oh my God. And if anybody in this country lives with the wolves right outside the door, it would be me. I mean, I live a fairly simple life. Trust me on that. And if there was some horrible economic situation going on, people like me would be the first to feel the sting of that. Yeah, it's rough sometimes. It really is. But that's just the way things go. I mean, to blame Biden for something he had nothing to do with, and he's tried desperately to correct, is astonishing to me. But anyway, he, in several moments during the speeches he gave in Nevada, he really implored his listeners to, quote, imagine the nightmare of Donald Trump, end quote. Well, I'll tell you what, we have some historical references, historical touchstones we can point to and say, well, this is what happened in Spain, this is what happened in Italy, this is what happened in Germany, this is what is happening in Turkey, is happening in India, is happening in Hungary, as it has happened repeatedly over and over in Russia. Do we want this shit to happen here? I keep hoping that the answer from the vast majority of Americans is no, we don't. Anyway, the Trump campaign trotted out one of their traitorous lapdogs who works on his campaign, Stephen Chung, and he answered by saying, quote, Biden has been a nightmare for this country in just 3 short years in the White House, and no amount of gaslighting will make Americans forget about all the misery and destruction he has brought. Misery and destruction? Where? I don't like Biden's support, 100% support of Netanyahu. There's several things about Biden I don't care for, but the country is not wallowing in misery and destruction. But this is the only message that the Trump fascists have to offer. This is it. Oh, and by the way, in the Democratic presidential primary tomorrow in Nevada, Biden is going to face some token opposition from Marianne Williamson, and a handful of unknown challengers. He won Nevada in November 2020 by fewer than 3 percentage points. But he was there over this weekend to get voters excited or roused up or agitated about not just the primary tomorrow in Nevada, but also about the general election in November. Biden has built his reelection campaign around the theme that Trump presents a dire threat to the U.S. and the values that are written into our documents that we haven't fully lived up to yet by any means. I don't know if that's been a good campaign design for Joe Biden, although I think it's critical that we Americans understand what this orange bastard has in mind for us. But Biden, in my opinion now, simply has done an awful lot to refloat, you might say, the ship of state. I hate those kinds of metaphors, don't you? So Biden has tried, and I think given what he's had to work with in the legislative branch and the judicial branch, he's done a damn good job. I really do believe that. Not the best job, not a job that 100% I would have liked to have seen him accomplish certain things, but to the extent that he has succeeded, I applaud him. Among other things, Biden has championed the defense of abortion rights. He recently held his first big campaign rally in Virginia, where the issue of a woman's, it's referred to as abortion rights. To me, it's a woman's right to privacy, a woman's right to sovereignty over her own body. And that issue was the one in 2022 that energized Democrats who won control of the state's House of Delegates, which is like the Senate and the House in other states. Biden also is beginning to, and I think he has been remiss in not doing this from the beginning, but he's been promoting his handling of the economy. He argues, rightly so, that his policies have created millions of jobs. I mean, take a look at what's going on. Take a look at the new hires every single month. Take a look at the unemployment rate below 4% now, 2 years in a row, 2 years where Biden was president, for the first time since the 1960s, 60 years ago. But he's not getting the kind of credit from Americans. And I am always left with that question. What the hell is wrong with the powers of observation of the American voter? Come on, folks. Not you. Not people listening to this podcast, for sure. He's also done a few things more than any other president to fight climate change. Not enough, but a start, I guess. He has improved the competitiveness of American businesses overseas, for sure. But these polls that keep popping into my face every time I turn around, these polls say that many voters aren't giving the Biden administration credit where it's due. I mean, we don't have to credit the Biden administration for things that have to do with natural fluctuations of the economy or political problems and violence that develops overseas in countries that we may or may not have a deep interest in. I mean, there's only so much that Biden or any president can control unless you have a filthy bastard like Donald Trump who will instigate, who he'll be like so many dictators in the old Soviet Union were like, and like Putin. And that is to stir up, to foment unpleasantness, which leads to violence in so many different areas. I mean, that's what Trump does. That's what he will do. And in my opinion, Biden tries, I think he tries, I hope he tries, to put those little brush fires out before they become the kind of Holocaust, small h, that has engulfed Israel and is spreading through the Middle East. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.